Hi, welcome to Local Matters, and as you can tell, we're not in the studio today. Can you figure out where we are? The dawn of the space age. Yes, that's right, we're in the Evergreen Space Museum. And I have with me the executive director, Ann Witzel. Ann, thank
Hi,
you.
welcome back, Ken. We love having you here.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here. And let me introduce Dick Gerke.
Yes,
Dick, thank you for being here. You're going to give us some of the history here.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about it.
All right.
Okay?
Well, let me start with Ann, and she's going to get us up to date on what's going on in the museum right now. So what's available this summer?
There's so much inside and outside. Of course, we have movies every Friday and Saturday night in our digital theater. We have BFG this weekend, which is an awesome film for folks to come see.
Big Friendly Giant.
That's right. We have remote control camps happening on August 3rd, the 10th, so that's fantastic for
camp
kids to come.
for kids.
Kids on
Remote
robotics.
control camp.
Remote control. We have robotics camps. You need to look at our website and find out the details and sign up. But we also have car shows coming on August 13th. And on the 20th is a member-only event where members of the museum can go through the DC-9 and have a tour, and the VC-3, which is a vice presidential plane out front. It's a very fun event for
You
just
can go
members.
in the plane,
In the plane.
in the cockpit.
In the cockpits.
And some of the other planes that were you telling me are open cockpit. That's that same event?
That's right. We have a couple planes that are open for open cockpit that weekend. Of course, we're a museum where you can get up close and personal with a lot of the artifacts, so you can be very close to them. It's not like things are behind plastic or glass walls. They're there for you to observe and be part of.
All right, well, let's see some of that.
That's
now,
great.
Well, Dick, give us an introduction. What happened here?
Well, this is a good place to begin because this is the start of, in fact, the space race. One morning we woke up, and this is Sputnik 1. This is the device that the Russians put up into space. It really didn't do anything but flash, but we could see it go overhead every night. It would pass over every 98 minutes, and you'd see this little sparkling star up in the sky.
It would go around the world every 98 minutes.
Yes, it
and
would.
you could see it go over, and
Yes. It was tiny. I mean, you had to look hard to see it, but you could see this one star that was moving across the sky at night. And so it made us realize that we have to get our act together and start looking into space. If the Russians are able to put this thing up there, maybe they're able to put a device up there that could carry a weapon, or they would be able to put cameras in it. And so it became very important for us to get on board.
And we were caught flat-footed then.
Yes.
The U.S. was.
We were sort of living fat, dumb, and happy.
Tell me the year again when this went up.
1957.
57.
Yes.
And that's when the space race began.
Right, and well, it's the reason John Kennedy got the country behind him. The whole idea was to put a man on the moon to catch up to the Russians and go past the Russians in our space program, and we did that.
And he gave that challenge in what year? 60?
That's a good question. Off the top of my head, I don't remember, but it was about and that sounds reasonable. A reasonable date.
Okay, we'll have to look that one up. Well, let's go over here and get a little history. What's on this board here?
Well, this is, in order to get up into space, you need to have a means of getting there. We need a vehicle that would be able to do this. Well, back in the 1200s, the Chinese developed rockets. And if you take a firecracker and you open one end of it and light it, it tends to shoot along the ground. The same idea is with the rocket. You put explosive material in and you leave one end open and you light it, and the force of the rapid expansion, I guess, of the fuel allows the missile to go off in a different direction. Those are solid rockets. That would be a solid propelled rocket. One of the first Americans to develop liquid propelled rockets was Robert Goddard, and this is an example of his first rocket, liquid propelled rocket. I think it went up 40 feet.
40. All right,
Okay.
That's a start.
But it's a beginning, and from that we have a Titan II here, and we also have a lunar lander here that people can see. So it's something that we put on the moon. So
Now I chuckle, but Goddard was the grandfather of the American space effort.
Yes.
And it started with a flight of 40 feet.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
All right. What's next?
next year we've got we've got an example here of the Photon, which is a
go over here.
missile or a space vehicle that was used by the
Let's come over here on this side.
Russians. It's a Russian-French experiment, and What's interesting about this particular satellite is we were bidding with another company to be able to buy the thing, purchase it, and put it on display. And we were dealing with a company that was selling it, and there were two of us that were bidding on this. And the story that I have is that their cell phone went out, and we had put in a bid of, I think, $30,000, something like that. And when they couldn't counter the bid, we wound up getting it. But in any case, so it's sort of an interesting story.
So that's why it's here.
That's why it's here.
So the Russian astronauts rode in this sphere.
Yes, not in this particular one, but one similar to this. This
Okay.
one was used as part of a French-Russian scientific experiment, and you can see the burn marks there on the bottom as this missile came, as this spaceship came through the atmosphere.
And your understanding is that yes, this came down by parachute, but then the astronauts would actually open that door and then parachute out of that door.
What I understand is just that I often wonder why we land our astronauts in the water, and
Yeah.
their astronauts supposedly landed on the land. And I thought, how did they do that? Well, I've heard that they actually parachuted out once they came through the atmosphere, and they were in the Earth. More below that, well, they were in the right space where they could parachute out and land, and so that's what I understand.
All right. What do we got behind us here?
This here is a Redstone rocket. This is the rocket that when we got into the space program, Eisenhower didn't want us to use military rockets, and so we were trying to develop a civilian-based rocket. And if you remember, the astronauts were not, although they were all uniformed members of the service, whenever they were photographed, they were always photographed in civilian clothing. And so the idea was that this was going to be a civilian program. Well, we were having difficulty getting a rocket that would get these guys up into space, and so we used this Redstone, which is a really military rocket, and it was developed by Werner von Braun's team. And the first two astronauts rode this. That was Shepard and Grissom, and it put them up into space. And then it was just to get them up there and then to bring them back down again. There was no circling the Earth,
yeah.
no orbiting, and so this is the rocket that they rode. And my understanding is this is a 50% man-rated, which means that it's a 50% chance of not working.
Not working, and that could translate to blowing up.
Yes. Now,
Okay.
as I understand it, they also had a switch inside the capsule that would allow them to flip the switch, and that would like blow them free. But I've also heard that it said that really it would all happen so quickly, but it made them feel like they had some control, and so it was thought to be worthwhile to have that in the space capsule.
That's risky duty.
Yes, and we have an example of the space capsule from the Freedom 7 on display here.
All right. What's our next rocket? What are we looking
Next is we'll go over to the Gemini 2. This is after the Freedom 7 experiment. We decided to try and put up two astronauts in space, and in order to do that, we needed to have a rocket that would allow us to do that. So we have this rocket here, the Titan II, and that's what was used. And matter of fact, this kind of rocket was also used in the silos around the country. Intercontinental ballistic missile that was used to carry warheads if we ever needed to fight an enemy. That would be what we would use as this Titan II. This was also used for the Gemini space launches. This is where the two astronauts went up. We have an example of the space capsule there that I guess, and we have
There's a spacewalk depicted
the
there.
spacewalk, yes, with White, I guess, was the fellow who did the first spacewalk. One of the interesting things about that is they said when you read White's description, he said he was amazed. He was very happy to be able to do this, to be out in space, and he thought it was a real kick. But what I've also read is that his heart rate was 151 beats a minute, and the ground crews were a little concerned that he was out and they weren't sure how he would get back. And it took him some while to figure out how to maneuver in space and get back into the capsule. He was out, I think 40 minutes or something like that. But it wasn't a real long time, but it allowed the people on back here on Earth to realize that we needed to do some work in how one moves about in space. It's like if you have a wrench in your hand on the planet here and you grab onto a nut and you squeeze and you push in one direction, you get a response. If you're in space and you push in one direction, you get and you move backwards, and if it's a real tight connection, so there's that kind of relationship that had to be looked into. So.
Well, thanks for taking us through the history of these rockets. That was a quick tour.
Well, I'm glad to have done it, and I'm glad you're here, and
right.
come. Have the people come here because there's a lot more to see. We have a lunar lander on display.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things.
All right. Well, I think we're going to
now.
head over and talk to Kurt on the SR.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
And so, Ann, join us for that walk. And thank you very much, Dick.
Thank you, Dick. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank
And
you.
see you soon.
Yeah.
All right.
You can see, Ken, why we have a lot of great artifacts here, but our greatest assets are our docents.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
amazing.
Tell
They
us
really
how many
personalize
there
the
are.
story.
There's-
We have about 240 active volunteer veteran docents, and they're here every day, and they give personal stories and guides like the one you just heard.
Yeah.
They know the artifacts. As I've said, they've built them, they've worked on them, they've flown them.
And they're
They
proud
just-
of them.
Oh, they're very proud of them. Passionate about them. You're hearing in the background, you're hearing a little bit of a blast off noise, and there's
okay.
a rocketry device over there where kids of all ages can come and launch rockets here within the museum.
And then there's a control room.
So below the Titan 2 is a control room that's been moved. It's a real control tower room that's been moved here, reconstructed, and groups of kids or adults can go in, and if they follow the right protocols and they follow their instructions, they can literally launch the Titan 2. It's simulated.
Yeah.
And it shows on the video, the smoke comes into the room and the room rocks and rolls. So it's really fun.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's.
yeah.
And how long's that been here?
Oh gosh, well this museum was opened in 2008, so it came shortly after
The control room's been there all that time.
It's-
Oh wow. There's
yeah.
a lot to discover
that. A
here.
lot to see here.
All right.
Yeah.
Now,
This is our SR-71.
tell us
Sounds
about it.
good.
When did this go up first?
The plans were in 1959, and the first one built was built in 1964, all by slide rule, no computers,
No computers.
no computers at all.
And when was the last time it flew?
1990, I think,
Okay.
and then they put it into inventory.
So it got computerized by the time it was done flying.
Yeah, they advanced everything year by year. They put things into it, made it more electronic.
So you were telling me about the controls on the plane. That was very interesting. How does that work?
Okay, the spikes that are in it, in each engine control the airspeed, because you have to have subsonic air to go supersonic speed. And that controls, and it's all done by computer now. It used to start out with just the pilot doing it.
Now, when you say spikes, you mean these big cones that are right in
Right.
front of the engine there. Okay. And how were those controlled?
They're controlled by computer, and it controls the air to make sure there's subsonic air going into that engine, because you can't go supersonic speed unless you have subsonic air.
Okay.
And it goes, when you're doing Mach 3, they're recessed 3 feet.
That cone is actually receded back in, and that allows
All
a
the
lot of air.
Right,
And you're way up high,
85,000 feet.
and there's not much oxygen.
No,
So you need a lot of volume going through to burn the fuel. Is that?
that's right.
Okay.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
tell me about the fuel. You were telling me about how when they fuel this thing.
Oh, it's JP7 fuel. It's
Okay.
got a high flash point, and they've put a fire out on the tarmac with it.
It doesn't burn very well.
It doesn't burn very well, and so they start it with TEB, it's triethylene boride, and they drop about a teaspoon of it in after they get the engines revved up, and it explodes, and that's how they start it.
Okay. And the fuel tanks didn't get tight until. Tell us about
Until
that.
they get up at least 450 knots. So they put a minimum amount of fuel to get up there. They put about 25,000 gallons in it. And then they get up there, and the plane expands about 7 inches.
Because of
its
the
time-
heat.
Because of the heat.
And that would seal. Then there were cracks in the fuel tank when it's down on the ground. The fuel
Yeah.
would leak out.
They have to wear rain gear while they fuel it.
So they get this thing airborne, and it's trailing drips of fuel until
Yeah.
it gets up. to temperature, and then the plant expands, the cracks seal, and
Right.
the gas tank quits leaking.
Right.
And then, tell me what happens next. They would have a transport come,
They have tankers.
tankers.
Every time they go on a mission, they have a fleet of tankers that follow them.
Because it runs out of fuel.
8,000 gallons an hour.
Okay.
And so then they go and they fly, and the tankers fly with them, and they always have an extra one flying with them.
To keep them up in the air.
Right.
All right. And that was a spy plane. It had incredible cameras
Strictly reconnaissance.
that could take pictures of a golf ball on a
At
green from
85,000 feet.
Yeah.
And it can take a picture of face of a person at that
Wow.
notable, so you could recognize somebody at that distance.
All right. Well, Kurt, thanks for the tour.
Okay,
And I'm
thank
sure
you.
people will want to come back and learn more about it, because you
Yeah,
could talk
true.
for we talked for 5
Right.
minutes. You could talk for 5
Hours.
days.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
Okay,
you again.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Impressive, isn't it?
It's-
Supersonic
It's amazing.
plane. Yeah, unbelievable. First real drone, actually. Yeah.
Where are
You
we
know,
headed next?
We're headed over to our restoration area, where Richard Martinez, head of the department, will show you a project he's working on right now. And then also how we have opportunities for folks from the community to get involved with rolling up their sleeves and helping to restore planes.
All right.
You know,
Well,
this weekend is the Hillsborough Air Show, as you may know. At the same time, we have a Purple Heart car show here on campus. So for those who want to watch from afar and come and really see some cool cars in person, that'll be here on campus in the parking lot and free of charge.
on what day again?
Saturday and Sunday this week.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks
Nice.
for that. Well, let's go meet Richard,
meet Richard.
and see what he's got going here. Hi, Richard.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
What have we got here?
We have an F86 H model.
And when you say H model, that's different. How is that different than the one before?
Well, the earlier models had 350 caliber machine guns on each side. As you can see, this one has two 20mm cannons, so they upped firepower on the H model. They also souped up the engine on the H model, so the scale went up a little larger.
Now, you know, looking at this plane the first time, you're like, where's the engine? And then you realize, what?
Yeah, well, the engine would be inside here.
So the whole thing is an engine.
Pretty much. We have it capped off right now, so it's just a static display. But you would be able to see the intake through the intake here, the beginning in front of the engine.
Okay.
And it was also our first swept-back wing aircraft, our first Mach 1 aircraft in a dive.
Mach 1, first one that broke the sound barrier
Yeah, in a dive.
in a dive.
Yeah. So, and this is H model. So the H model came out was one of the later models, late '53. So it came out right after the Korean War. I didn't see any wartime. The earlier models came out. First one came out in 1947. So those fought in Korea against the MiG-15 and the 17, like the one you see here behind us.
And was it a good plane?
It was a fantastic plane.
You had some statistics about its
During
performance.
the Korean War, when they fought, it was about a 9 to 1 kill ratio in our favor. By the end of the war, it was a 20 to 1 kill ratio in our favor.
Our pilots got better.
We had the best pilots, but the Russians were training the Koreans at that time, at the beginning of the war, to get them transitioned into the MiGs. And by the end of the war, the Koreans were fighting us instead of us fighting the Russians. So their performance went down, and we brought down a lot of them.
So this was the main fighter of the Korean War, not
Yeah.
the H model, but the ones before.
Yeah, correct.
All right. Now tell us about this one. Where did it come from? How'd you get it?
This one came out of Cannon Air Force Base. It sat out there in the front entry gate for about 30 years, approximately. They were doing some remodeling up front, and they didn't want it sitting up there. They ended up putting a C-130 up there. So two summers ago, we went out there, dismantled the wings, dismantled the tail section, and put it on a truck.
We.
It was me and two other restoration employees.
Your dad?
Yeah, my father, and another volunteer.
So you drove down there and cut
Yeah.
this thing up and put it on a truck and brought it back.
Correct.
Well,
yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, no, it was fun.
And put it back together.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of rough. What's the process going on here now?
Well, if you could see the back section over here,
Uh-huh.
there were some panels missing. So we're fabricating some panels. If you look on the other side, you can see some that were already fabricated. And there's a few there. We scuffed it up. We're sanding it down, getting ready for paint. It's one of the last final steps.
What color is it going to be?
It will be gray. So we're kind of like the MiG-17 color there behind us. If you look at the leading edges too, we have these slats. They're gravity fed. There's no hydraulics. There's no corkscrew motor running them. They're just hydraulics. No hydraulics. They're just gravity fed. So in a takeoff, they would allow us to take off in a shorter runway or a shorter distance. Once we hit a certain speed, the force would just push it back into plane, and there we are.
Ah.
And it helped us on taking off, and it also helped us on maneuverability.
Well, that is genius that
Yeah.
it doesn't take a lot of control. It just takes
Yeah.
no controls.
Yeah.
Nothing for the pilot to worry about. It just happens automatically.
Yeah, correct.
Wow. All right. Well, you're
If you
gonna
would
take
like
us-
to see some of our smaller projects we have
Yeah.
going on in restoration.
Now this is the shop.
Yeah, this is the shop. Our crew just left. It was time for them to go.
Oh.
But we do have some A4 pylons. These are what A4 pylons are. What we're working on right now. As you can see, these are what hold the bombs and also the fuel tanks
Okay.
off of the wings.
Now, volunteers can come in here and work on these.
Yeah, correct. We're always accepting new applications for volunteers. We could definitely use some skill, more skill in here. Anybody that's out there mechanically inclined is more than welcome to come by.
And it looks like there's lots to do here. I see a whole bank of screws and bolts and nuts.
Yeah, we've got plenty of hardware and some tooling here to keep the program going.
Quite a machine shop. You've got a brake back there.
Yeah, we have a brake, we have a shear, we have our bandsaws, we have our press.
So you're actually making those panels in here.
Yeah, on
That,
those panels, I use some of this T3 aluminum that's right here. This is some of it here. I use the roller that's right over here to
All right.
here in front of us.
So a lot of opportunity to get involved.
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of opportunity.
Thanks for the tour. And
Yeah.
people can come by and talk to you more.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So
Anytime.
come see Richard if you want to sign up to work here. All right. All right, Ann, are we getting near the end?
We are getting near the end.
What have we got going now?
Well, outside, you asked what's happening this weekend outside. We have a plane pool. So teams of individuals are pulling planes to raise money for Special Olympics. It's hosted by the Yamhill County Police and Fire Departments. That's just a great, fun event to come observe if folks would like to this weekend on campus in the parking lot.
Now, a plane pull, is that where people pull the plane?
They pull the plane.
You tie a rope to the plane,
There's a rope.
and a team,
And a team it's a fundraiser for the Special Olympics.
and so it's
it
a
is
competition. How
team
fast can
competition.
you get the plane from here to there?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, isn't that fun?
And what plane
Really
are you
fun.
pulling? What plane's got to
Oh, they're out in the lot. There are a
Okay.
couple different ones you'll see. So I wanted to also take an opportunity to just share how excited we are about the future of the museum. There are so many things that are happening that are of benefit, not just the museum, but the entire region surrounding us. We have new investors who are purchasing some of the buildings and the surrounding land of the museum, keeping the museum whole. We'll continue to remain as tenants on the campus, running all these terrific programs, activities, camps, etc. But having new investors owning some of the buildings is a tremendous opportunity for us. Additionally, they're bringing in a lot of events to the museum, so we can use these magnificent facilities after hours for other purposes, and that's what these groups will be doing, as well as bringing in corporate groups for seminars. And so we're going to have a lot of different people coming to this region from outside the Pacific Northwest just to attend some of these events and corporate training seminars that are being hosted by the new investors, and I think the entire community is going to benefit from that. We're very excited.
So I'm hearing these new investors are bringing in some more energy, some more money, some more enthusiasm, some more
Right.
ideas,
A lot of visibility.
a lot of visibility.
And within a year and a half, we'll be building a hotel on campus. So we will be able to become the #1 destination of Oregon.
I've heard there's a big need for a destination hotel in this area, another
There
one.
is.
So great, that is great news.
We're so excited. It's going to be great for everyone. We're very excited.
All right, well, we've just got a couple minutes left.
Well, thank you for your time. We'd like to introduce you to Kelsey, our membership director.
Well, hi, Kelsey. What can you tell us about membership?
So we have a really awesome membership program. We have a few different levels that are good for different size families, basically. There's some things that come with all of the levels, though. You get access to any ASTC museums, which is over 300 museums, 300 science and technology museums around the world.
Oh, wow.
You get access to our museum for free for a year. There's also a discount to our water park. There's a discount to the gift shop, and there's discounted movie tickets.
Now, I have a membership.
Yeah.
And I've got this card here. What
Yeah.
does this one get me?
So this is a Family Plus membership, which is one of
Okay.
our most popular deals. It gets you access for adults and for children, and that's to the museum for an entire year for free. And also, there's a really good deal for Yamhill County residents. You get 20% off of a membership purchase if you live anywhere in Yamhill County.
Live in the county, you get 20% off. That's
Yes.
significant. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
it's pretty great. And we also have some members-only events that we're doing soon. In August, actually, we're going to have an open cockpit event. So members will be able to get access to some planes that aren't usually open to the public, which is really exciting. So yeah, we have a lot of really cool stuff planned for sure.
And what's going on behind us?
Yeah, that's a biplane ride that we have that's really popular with the kids. It's really fun. I haven't been on it, but I should.
Well, Ann, come and join us to say goodbye.
Great.
So we've got a lot going on here. We've got summer camp. We've got docents that are just excited to tell us
They are.
everything they know about some great stuff. We've got great membership deals. So
And our second annual fundraising event, the Gala, Heroes Gala, on November 5th.
November
so Saturday,
5th,
November 5th.
fundraiser event.
We invite the community
Saturday.
for tickets. Please see our website. We'd love to have you join us.
All right. Well, with that, another Local Matters.